Up, guys? Good afternoon. Maryland's back. Maryland's playing Ohio State tonight. Man, it's gonna be a great game. So Maryland played Ohio State earlier this year, and if I told you it was 50-17, Maryland Ohio State, you'd probably think that was like a football score. But it was Maryland in the first half beating Ohio State 50-17 en route to what was it 83-59. Absolutely destroyed them. This was that game early in the year where I was like, man, this Maryland team's a lot different than the past couple of years under Willard, where they can actually shoot. They have offensive talent because Ohio State's a pretty good team. I remember saying that right after the game. I was like, that was wow. Maryland was amazing. That was one of the best halves of basketball I can remember. So, what is different this time around, and what should we look for tonight? So, starting with Ohio State, because Maryland's very similar to where they were. They're running out the same five. To go through the box score from that game, it was Reese, Queen, Gillespie, Rice, and Miguel. Relatively balanced. Gillespie led the way with 23, and Queen had 17. But the game really wasn't in doubt from the very beginning. So for Ohio State, though, things are a lot different, and it's kind of hard to put your finger on Ohio State. You feel like that's the case in early February with almost every college basketball team, but Ohio State in particular had a wild year. So starting back in December, they were 5-2 when they came to Maryland, and they had Michi Johnson, their guard Michi Johnson, who left the team shortly after that Maryland game. For personal reasons, he's not back with the team. He's been replaced by Mobley, the freshman. Mobley's been great, so they haven't really missed a beat, but they do lose the depth there. That's been interesting to watch. And then Bradshaw, who did not play against Maryland, is the big 7-foot center that came over from Kentucky, just because Kentucky didn't really want him, to be honest. Not great. Just kind of a big guy. He's there. He'll start tonight and probably match up against Queen down low, be there for Ohio State. I think that's a huge advantage for Maryland. I think Derek Queen's going to have a monstrous game, and it's mainly because Bradshaw is the main defender for Ohio State. Ohio State will have Devin Royal, who plays inside out game. He's a 3 for Ohio State. He was really good. He tried to cover for me on Sunday against Illinois, but Ohio State just couldn't play any defense. But anyway, he's a really solid player. He's in there. And then their best player is Bruce Thornton. So Thornton is the guard. He's 6'2". He is really good, but is he good enough to be the best player on a tournament team? Probably, maybe, somewhere kind of in the middle. They're a bubble team. Ohio State is. They've had a really interesting season, like I mentioned. Jake Diebler, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's his first year as the head coach. He was the assistant at Valpo and Vandy under Bryce Drew, and he got the job as the interim coach. They fired their coach last year on Valentine's Day. Just Ohio State has not been able to get it together ever since Thad Matta left. But anyway, Diebler took over. They've been decent since he's been here. His overall record's 18-11. They beat Purdue in Purdue. They've lost. They had a 3-game losing streak where they lost. I think it was like Oregon, Wisconsin, and Indiana, all by 2 points or less, which is God, that's almost impossible. Then they beat Kentucky by 20 points in New York City earlier in the year. They should have covered against Illinois. Should have, whatever. They were winning by 6 at halftime, and then they just couldn't. They couldn't close the door really for the spread, let alone for the game against Illinois. And my take on Ohio State is just up and down, up and down, up and down. Whereas Maryland is rolling now. Maryland's consistent. They've won a handful of games in a row. They got a whole week off. I'm really surprised by the spread. I'm gonna double check it while I'm doing this, but I'm pretty sure Ohio State is favored by 2.5. I know Maryland hasn't been great on the road overall, but they have won the last two. Let me double check that because if it's 2.5, I'm 100% on Maryland. I was worried I was going to have to give points tonight, but Maryland, yeah, +2 now on the line that I'm looking at. I love Maryland tonight. I think that's the right pick. I think Ohio State might, they could make a run in the Big Ten tournament. Like I said, they could sneak in as a bubble team. They don't have enough depth to beat Maryland, and you got to be bigger and stronger than Maryland inside. They're not. They're going to try to outscore Maryland tonight. The over set at 147. I'd roll with the over at least the team total over for Maryland. Big on Maryland night. So we'll see how the game goes. I'll break down in the morning. I wanted to record this pod as close as possible to got practice here in a half hour, but the trade deadline for the NBA has been wild. I wanted to, I'll do a whole thing tomorrow morning on it, but the just a quick minute on this one, just because it'll get lost in the shuffle, and I think it's a really good trade. So this just happened 20 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago, something like that. Anyway, the Hawks traded DeAndre Hunter. So there's a couple things why I want to talk about this. But anyway, the Hawks traded DeAndre Hunter. If you don't remember DeAndre Hunter, he was the winning, probably the best player, Ty Jerome, and I forget the other guard's name on Virginia when they won the national championship. But DeAndre Hunter was the best player or the best NBA prospect out of that team. Ended up going to the Hawks. God, who was the other point guard on that team? It was Ty Jerome or the two guard. Anyway, Virginia won the national championship. DeAndre Hunter, great basketball player, really smart, three-way, 3-and-D player. Signed a friendly contract these days in the NBA. It's $120 million, but whatever. It's friendly contract. He goes to the Cavs, and just on a coaching note, the Cavs are now going for it. So if you haven't been following the NBA, the Cavs are the 1 seed and probably will be the 1 seed by the time the season's finished. The Celtics did beat them the other night, but the Cavs are right there with the Celtics and the Knicks and the Bucks as the teams that have a legitimate chance to win the East. And they add DeAndre Hunter, and the coach for the Cavs, Kenny Atkinson, fantastic coach, great coach. It's his first year coaching the Cavs. They do everything the right way, and it just reminded me of when you have the right coach, whether it's the highest level of sports or the lowest level of sports, it really does come down to coaching. It comes down to the chemistry of the coach and the players. It's not just you're a bad coach or a good coach, but can you read the room? Do the players like you? Do they buy in? Because this Cavs team is completely different than they were last year. They're just way more spread out. They score. They're more efficient. And DeAndre Hunter is a huge addition. He can guard Tatum. If you had to pick one guy to guard Tatum, I don't know. He's on the short list at the end of the game. So I like that for them. And he's probably on the short list to guard Giannis. Somebody's got to guard him. But DeAndre Hunter, big addition for the Cavs. They also have Evan Mobley in there to guard Giannis. So I like that. And then on the flip side, let me double check Virginia's basketball. They're terrible this year as their coach left right before the season started. And yeah, they're just awful. Virginia just can't get out of their own way. They lost to Virginia Tech. I remember watching the end of that game the other night. And, they did beat Pittsburgh on Monday. But their overall record, just 11-12. And they just don't play the same way they played ever since they lost coach. Tony Bennett retired. Some guys are not built for the NIL and the changes. But, yeah, the team apparently can't be this bad. I know they always struggle offensively, but Virginia, you could always count on them at least to be really solid, and they've fallen apart. So anyway, I'll do the NBA trade deadline tomorrow and break down all the trades, get all the Super Bowl bets out for this weekend. Got another pod coming for that. And then I'll announce exactly where the company's headed in the next few weeks. But Maryland basketball for tonight is top of mind. So good luck. If you're taking Maryland, I'm right with you. Can't get away from it. I love Derek Queen tonight. So go Maryland. I'll see you guys in the morning. And, have a good night.